Mel Gibson. I went over to the local Chinese restaurant at a large regional town, and it was 4:30 on a Friday, and sitting there up in the corner was Mel Gibson. And I wasn't surprised, as you may think, because my staff had told me that they'd seen him in with his family on Tuesday nights, Half Price Tuesday, much to my disappointment. I also knew that he had a cattle farm nearby, and I'd also seen the big Warner Brothers jet at the local airport that came over from LA and I presume picked him up. So the owner of the business, who I knew quite well, he took I sat far away from Mel, and he said, "What would you like?" And I said, "I'll have a Crown Lager like Mel." And so he takes my order, and then he goes over to Mel, and I saw them two shake heads, and then Mel sort of beckoned for me to come over. So I went over to him, and the owner left, and Mel took great delight telling me that the owner of the business had said to Mel Gibson, "Do you realise that's Doug Henderson over there, manager of the cinema?" And Mel was highly amused at that. And we spoke for about 45 minutes, and we talked about the movie business, and we wanted to talk about the cattle industry, and it was terrific. Until all of a sudden I remembered that I'd read a review in that morning's Variety magazine. Anyone heard of Variety magazine? Terrific, a trade magazine for cinema people. We used to get an air flown over to our place every week. So I'd probably seen it before Mel had. Anyway, I started to quote him a review from Beauty on the Bounty, and it was very uncomplimentary. And it was saying things like, if Mel thinks he can act, he needs to stop yelling because he's got no chance of being better than Anthony Hopkins. Mel needs to do this, Mel needs to do that. And so Mel took it for about 3 or 4 minutes, and I really didn't know what I was doing, but he all of a sudden stood up and went out pretty quickly. I watched him on the way out, and he had a talk to Anthony at the front counter. And then Anthony comes over, and he's got a book for me, and I thought it was an autograph book, and he wants my autograph to go with it, with Mel Gibson's. But in fact, it was $32.50 for fried rice, a large sweet and sour pork, and 4 Crown Lagers. And not only that, there was a $20 tip, and I was sort of stunned. And I said, "What's the tip for?" And Anthony said, "Oh, well, Mel told me on his way out to put a $20 tip on." So there I was, having to pay for Mel Gibson's dinner. So my name is Doug Henderson, and as I said, I did have 40 years in the business. I had a gentleman yesterday in the lift ask me why I didn't mention who I worked for. Basically, I just want to keep things private. Some of these stories, like the John Travolta one the other day, I'm not sure that my company that I used to work for would want that. They treated me very well. I worked for them for 18 years, and then my whole department got retrenched, and I took a nice package. And then 9 months later, they rang me and I was re-employed for another 18 years. So they were very good to me. I wouldn't like to upset anyone. There's a few of the things we're going to talk about today. And one of the things that's not on there that we're going to talk about is the revenue waterfall. What is the lifespan of a film? So I hope that you'll enjoy that one. In the meantime, here's Tom Cruise doing what he does best. Thank you. Guys, have a guess at this. Can anyone tell me what the movie may be? A little bit louder. Which one? No. Good guess though.
Oh.
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
I'd like an answer to the question, Judge.
The corporal will wait for an answer.
If Lieutenant Kendrick
gave an order that Santiago wasn't to be touched. Why did he have to be transferred? Colonel,
A few good men.
Lieutenant Kendrick ordered the code red, didn't he? Because that's what you told Lieutenant Kendrick to do.
Object!
When it went bad, you cut these guys loose! Your Honor, you employed us inside the phony transfer! Your Honor, you doctored the logbook! You coerced the doctor!
Consider yourself a lieutenant!
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth! Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's gonna do it? You? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom. You weep for Santiago and you curse the Marines. You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know. That Santiago's death, while tragic, probably saved lives. And my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, saves lives. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. We use words like honor, code, loyalty. We use these words as the backbone of a life spent defending something. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide, and then questions the manner in which I provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand a post. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to. Did you order the code red? I did the job. Did you order the code red? You're goddamn right I did!
Jack Nicholson was 37 years of age, and Time magazine were doing a big spread on him. And they rang him and gave him some interesting news. They said, Jack, do you realise that your sister is in fact your mother and that your parents are in fact your grandparents? So at 37 years of age, that was kept from Jack Nicholson. I don't want to talk about the 90s, of course, but I wanted to give you a little bit more context. 60s ended with the two worst box office in all-time history, 1968 and 1969. And then we had the 70s. We had The Fantastic Exorcist in 73, Jaws in 75, and Star Wars in 77. And these three big films really sort of set the scene for the modern day blockbuster. And the 70s ended with a couple of disasters. New York, Martin Scorsese film. That film drove him into drugs, unfortunately, but he managed to recover and do The Colour of Money with Paul Newman and Tom Cruise at a later date. And Heaven's Gate with Michael Cimino. Michael Cimino had done The Deer Hunter, and he was well regarded as a genius after one film. He was given unlimited control, and the end result was that the studio, who was United Artists, they really went down the gurgler after that one film. And United Artists was formed in 1920 by Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Mary Pickford. So they traded all that way to Heaven's Gate.
Come on, show the movie! Oh. I'm laughing, but it's a laugh of impatience. Show the movie! Oh! So many previews, so many previews, so many previews.
And now, our feature presentation.
If that's a phrase you like to hear, then you'll love Movie Call.
Ah! Ah! Start the movie! Start the movie! Start the movie! Stop the madness! Start the movie!
Maybe we should try to calm Dad down. I prefer to egg him on. Hey, Dad, has the movie started yet?
So the 90s started, ladies and gentlemen, and after the 60s and 70s and the 80s, the 90s was another very good year for films. First of all, we had the technological boom. So we had filmmakers like Steven Spielberg and James Cameron who really couldn't tell the stories that they wanted to tell because technology hadn't really caught up with them. And they made some terrific films. Films like The Matrix, Jurassic Park, Titanic couldn't have been made in the previous decade. We also had this terrific Disney renaissance. Disney had been in terrible trouble in the 80s. And in fact, when I first started in the business in the early 80s, we were showing and continued to show for the next 15 years Lady and the Tramp, Fantasia, Jungle Book, big queues for these things, but they were the only films going around. So Disney Renaissance, in 1989 we had The Little Mermaid, and Little Mermaid did very good business. Then in 1992 in June we had Aladdin, and in November we had the other film, it's going to escape my mind at the moment, Beauty and the Beast. And then we had The Lion King in 1994, and then we had Tarzan. So we had, really 8-10 years of terrific Disney business. Disaster movies were back in vogue with Armageddon and Titanic and Independence Day. And we had these ridiculous star demands from the big studios. So the big studios were back in control of things, but the people who own the stars, the management of the stars, CAA and these sort of companies, they had a lot of control. And so the big stars wanted private jets, and you know how much petrol is for private jets. They wanted big entourages, and they wanted enormous salaries, and that's what they got. Here's a little homage to the 90s.
Stay awake just to hear you breathing. Watch you smile while you are sleeping, while you're far away and dreaming. I could spend my life in this sweet surrender. I could stay lost in this moment forever. Every moment spent with you is a moment I treasure. Don't wanna close my eyes, I don't wanna fall asleep, 'cause I miss you, baby, and I don't wanna miss a thing. 'Cause even when I dream of you, the sweetest dream will never do. I still miss you, baby.
Thank you, guys. I'd like to talk about the revenue waterfall, and this is the lifespan of a film. And some people may think that the theatrical release is the be-all and end-all, but the theatrical release, on average, only accounts for 37% of a film's revenue. So where does the other money come from? Well, hard sales, and that is, if you go to JB Hi-Fi or BW or Kmart, you'll still see plenty and plenty of shelves of DVDs, and people still like to buy the Blu-ray, and they like to buy the director's cut. So these things still make a lot of money, the hard sales. You might remember in Talk 1, Matt Damon talking about the lack of video sales, and that's true, but it's not completely vanished. That still can take good money, but in the early 2000s, hard sales would result, a film like Transformers or Guardians of the Galaxy would result in $200 million of hard sales without that theatrical release. So it sure has dropped down. Video on demand, this is where you either buy or rent a video from a streaming service. You know that they come on the streaming service, Netflix or Stan. Before they go to subscription viewers, they go on video on demand. So this is the next step, and it might take months before the film actually gets on the subscription release pattern. And that is indeed the next point. And then we had the ancillary, which is, there was a couple of Christmas movies on the ship here. They would have paid money for that. If you had caught a flight to Sydney and saw a film on a flight, they paid for that. Hotels, motels, they pay for that as well. So ancillary sales are still very important. And then the last thing is free-to-air television. Who's seen Pretty Woman on TV? Only about 1,000 times. Well, they don't buy the film, they rent it, and they either rent it for 12 months or 24 months, maybe even 36 months. And the owners of the film, i.e. the big studios, will tell the TV stations how many times they can show it during the run for their contract. And then once it's had the 24 months, it'll go back into the TV vault to be sold again to perhaps another TV station.
Peter, chances are you're buying some food. AMC reports that more than 71% of attendees purchase something at concessions.
If they did not have concessions, they wouldn't be in business.
That's Kim Moon. She's a marketing instructor at the University of Illinois at Chicago. And she's right. Without concession sales, both AMC and Regal would not make a profit.
So when you walk into a theater, you will see tons and tons of imagery as it relates to food and beverage.
Most movie theaters are designed so you have to walk past the concession counter. The actual movies are tucked away down long, dark hallways. But as soon as you get inside the theater, the food is bright, colorful, and thanks to the glass case, visible at every angle. You can see popcorn popping, stacks of candy, and giant soda machines.
The big, huge boxes serve sort of like a billboard effect. They're enormous, and so calling out to you more than an appropriately sized box. When you open it up, though, it's about the same amount of candy in there as a small box that you might find at the drugstore.
All of this is surrounded by TV screens that look beautiful shots of soda and popcorn. Food is constantly grabbing your attention.
So I explained in talk one that the film hire works out at about 50% over the course of the year, but food and beverage sales works out at 25% cost of goods sold. So in those first couple of weeks of the film, the distributors are getting 90% of the take, cinema managers are only getting 10%, so we really do need this candy bar revenue. And really for 35 out of the 37 or 8 years that I was in the cinema business, I always had a substantial part of my salary paid in bonus for candy bar, the SPP. SPP is spend per person, and that is the amount of revenue that a candy bar takes divided by the amount of admissions. And that gives you your SPP, and you can play around with that, incorporating the average sale, how much people spend at the candy bar, and the strike rate, how many people actually come to the candy bar. But it was a very important part of the business. That was an American clip before, and we don't sell in Australia anywhere near as much candy as that. But basically we sell 40% popcorn, 40% Coke, meaning all the various flavours of post-mix, although Coke does account for 9 in 10 post-mix sales. And then we sell 10% Choc Tops, basically. Now we're up to the quiz, ladies and gentlemen. Session 1 was pretty good. Session 2, I thought you went downhill. Let's see what happens in session 3. Yell out to me if you know the name of the movie, please. Yes. Yes, well done. You're going well. Yes, well
Passed
done.
away.
Okay, this is better than the previous 2 outings. Well done. Yes, good. Great film, Steven Spielberg film, of course. guys ever have it? Yeah? Yes? Hold on. Yeah? Excellent. Well, normally I ask, if you get under 5, I normally ask people to leave the building, but I don't think I'll do that today. Terrific. Well done, guys. The number 10 film is Armageddon, starring Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis retired in 2022. From 2020 to 2022, he made 28 films, and he got paid between $1 and $2 million for those films. And he basically, all those films went straight to streaming services. So he basically lent his name to those films. And as I say, he's retired. He's got dementia. Here's a little scene with Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck. Number 9 is Men in Black, and here I want to tell you a little story. We often had overseas stars come to Melbourne to do star tours, and they go on all the TV shows and they have interviews with magazines and the newspapers. And we had Will Smith at the start of the 2000s, and we always had to throw 2 parties on for these people. One party had 60 or 70 people, and we had footballers, B-grade television people, other people in the cinema industry, politicians, and that's terrific. But what happens in those parties, and I did have a bit of an embarrassing time with Hugh Grant once. I had to stand with him for 15 minutes because at those parties no one approaches the star until they've had 3 or 4 drinks. So for the first 45 minutes it's quite excruciating. So we always put on a second party, and we ask people to tell us who they want there. And for Will Smith, he wanted a couple of Australian gridiron players. So they leave the party pretty quick, the big party, that just kicks on, and then they go over to their little party. And I remember we did one for Russell Crowe as well, and he wanted 3 things. He wanted a place to have a smoke, and he wanted a carton of VB beer, and he wanted 2 guests only. He wanted Darren Hinch, who was a Melbourne shock jock at the time, and he wanted Ron Barassi, who was an AFL ex-footballer at the time. But Will Smith, so he came along, and we had a world premiere, Australian premiere, and we had sold about 1,500 or 1,600 seats, so we couldn't have it in one cinema. We had it in 4 cinemas. So we had to go into each cinema and make a speech and do a bit of a skit, and my job was to transfer him into the cinema. And he did great. Cinemas 1, 2 and 3, that was fine. And on the way to cinema 4, I had the earpiece on, and they said, "Doug, sorry to say, but we can't get the microphone working for cinema 4. Well, I was horrified because he's quite a big bloke, and some of these guys don't like being told they can't do something. So I said to him, "Well, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "Don't worry about it, Doug, no worries." And he ran ahead of me, ran into cinema 4, got a couple of girls up on stage, danced with them, did a big speech pretending he had a microphone, and he came back and said, "Oh, that was the best fun I ever had." So he was terrific. It could have got worse.
Oh, wow! Wow! Will Smith.
That didn't This is the sequel to Jurassic Park. This was the film that brought about the terror of the dinosaurs. The first film was all about the awe of seeing the actual dinosaurs. This was all about what the dinosaurs can do to people. Now, I'm going to show you a film clip, ladies and gentlemen. Just let me set it up. So this is the start of this film. It's the opening scene, and you've got a rich couple, very rich couple, and they've got their own sort of private Queen Elizabeth, and they've gone to a deserted island. They've got a little 11-year-old girl, and they've let her explore while the servants start to get lunch ready.
Bird or something? Are you hungry? Take a bite. It's roast beef. It's good. Come on, I won't hurt you. Mommy! Daddy, you've got to come see this! I found something!
Steven Spielberg joke. Lunch is ready. Number 7 film, The Sixth Sense. Anyone see this? Yeah. Okay, don't tell anyone the ending. So it's got a terrific twist to it if you haven't seen it, and a really good young star, Haley Osment, and of course the director had great vision. This was his first hit, and excellent film. Toni Collette is in it.
You know the accident up there?
Yeah.
Someone got hurt.
They did?
A lady. She broke her neck.
Oh my god, but you can see her?
Yes.
Where is she?
Standing next to my window.
Baby, what are you shaking? Cole, what's wrong?
Did you ever talk to your mom about how things are?
I don't tell her things.
Why not?
Because she doesn't look at me like everybody else, and I don't want her to. I don't want her to know.
Know what?
I see dead people walking around like regular people.
I don't see anything. Are you sure they're there?
Sometimes you feel it inside, like you're falling down real fast. You ever feel the prickly things on the back of your neck?
Yes.
That's them. They get mad. It gets cold.
How often do you see them?
All the time.
I think most people would have seen this next film. Had a beautiful melody to it. Tom Hanks wasn't the original cast person that they wanted casted. They wanted John Travolta, but Travolta wouldn't do it. Tom Hanks wouldn't take a salary. He wanted a cut of the film instead. Don't forget, no one knew whether it was going to be a success or not, and that resulted in a $60 million payday for him. And there's plenty of really good scenes in this film. It's another perfect film, I think, and here's one of the good ones.
Run!
That day on, if I was going somewhere, I was running.
Beautiful. Next film is Independence Day. This is the first film that utilised the Super Bowl, the big sporting event in the USA. It utilised the halftime break to have a couple of TV ads in it. It cost them about $2 million each. The film really overperformed, and a lot of that was due to the TV placing, I think.
Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata. Ain't no passing craze. It means no worries for the rest of your days. It's all problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata.
And of course, another sequel is coming out at Christmas time called Mufasa. I think it's already out actually. So go and see that at the cinema if you're going to see it. This didn't happen all the time, but it wasn't unusual. We had the Disney executives fly over about 6 months before the film was released in Australia, and they showed it to a number of executives, and I was there, and they had an uncut version of it, and therefore it wasn't coloured properly. Simba's ear wasn't fully on, and the music wasn't put in properly. It was in black and white mostly, some of it was colour. But they showed it to us, then they asked us for a few bit of feedback. And all the guys sort of mentioned the fact that they didn't like the opening scene where Elton John came and started to sing A Circle of Life, because we felt that it needed some sort of African theme. So we were very happy to hear this. Number 3 film is The Phantom Menace, and here we have George Lucas making his big comeback. He didn't direct a film for 22 years. I spoke the other day about the fact that not only didn't he enjoy directing, but he was very sick and his wife left him, and he raised 2 young children by himself, and he had all these enormous businesses that he was starting, including Pixar. Number 2 film, Jurassic Park, starring Sam Neill. And Sam Neill only got the job 3 weeks before the film started. He hadn't read the book and didn't know much about it. James Cameron tried to get the rights for this film, but he got beaten by Steven Spielberg by 2 hours. Really interesting to see what James Cameron did.
Period. I mean, this thing isn't this thing.
But as I say, this is all about the awe of the dinosaurs, and you'll see here shortly where the big dinosaurus makes his entrance. And people hadn't really seen it, that sort of scope on the cinema. And George Lucas would always help out Steven Spielberg on his films in the sound or the special effects areas. But George never wanted Steven to help him because he thought that Steven would put his footprint over the film.
sick.
Who can guess what number one is?
Titanic, wasn't it? Was.
I changed my mind. They said you might be okay. Keep your head. Now close your eyes. Go on. Now step up.
Kate Winslet,
And hold on to the railing.
Leonardo,
Keep your eyes closed. Don't peek. I'm not. Step up over the railing. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes closed. Do you trust me? I trust you.
and Titanic, of course, was the most expensive film ever made, costing $200 million to make it. And the studio didn't really want to make it. They thought, everyone knows the ending, but they didn't want to annoy James Cameron because he made the Terminator series, he'd made True Lies, he'd made First Blood, and they really didn't want to annoy him. So they said, look, here's $10 million, go away and produce a couple of scenes and see if you can do what you're telling us you can do, and we'll base our decision on that. And of course, that went pretty well. James Cameron himself, I was lucky enough to meet James Cameron. Every second year from 1990 to 2010, I had the good fortune of going to Las Vegas for the world's biggest movie convention called CineCon. Happens in Las Vegas. About 400 or 500 people from all around the world come, mostly cinema owners. And each day is sponsored by one of the big studios, and they throw an awful lot of money at it. Big lunches, big dinners, big stars everywhere. And I had a front row seat at one of the panel shows, and they had Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the VP of Disney at the time, George Lucas, and James Cameron. And then after that, we had lunch in a big ballroom at tables of about 20 or 30 people, and the three guys went around the tables talking to everyone, and we had James Cameron. And he came up and spoke about things. He's got a pretty fierce reputation in Hollywood as a dictator, but he came up and he was telling us that he was waiting for technology to catch. He didn't say what the name of the film, but he was saying, I've got something in mind. I wanted to make it before I made Titanic, but I have to wait for technology to catch up. And we waited for that, and then it was about 6 or 7 years later I realised he was talking about Avatar. Ladies and gentlemen, it was only in March this year, if I can share this with you, that I was on the Queen Mary 2 watching a presenter, Stuart Tipple, and he really made me think that this is perhaps something that I could do. And I jumped over a few hoops when I got home, and I got knocked back, and then I jumped over a few hoops, evidently one of the few people to reapply, and then I got a position. And I'm very pleased to get a position. I'm very pleased to be on the Queen Elizabeth But what I wanted to share with you is that at 68 years of age, having had a big career, you think that perhaps life's passed you by, or that the good times are over, or you're not in the game anymore. And I think that as we get older, we do lose a bit of motivation, we lose a bit of interest, we lose a bit of energy, but I don't think we lose our capabilities. And we're all very, very capable people that have led very, very capable lives, and often a lot of us still are. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I had one final wish that I could leave you with, it is that you guys down there, you guys up in the expensive seats, Stuart, Cherie, everyone there, you guys there, I just hope you enjoyed my shows as much as I did doing them for you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's good.
All the best.
Mm-hmm.